Sometimes I think, are we Russians really that way? In this video I'll be discussing some of my observations about Russians while living far from Russia. And yes, it can be a little bit controversial, but it's just a part of the conversation, right? Under one of my short video, I've noticed one interesting comment saying, eating out may appear expensive in Germany. However, remember that part of the payment may come back in the shape of public service, schools, hospitals, roads, culture, and that eating out also creates jobs to many. Now, as a Russian, I would never think this way. Never think this way. In Russia, it's not that people are greedy or something. It's just because of there is a lack of trust between citizens and government when it comes to paying taxes, especially if we are talking about high taxes like we have in Europe. Additionally, there is noticeable divide between authorities such as police and military and regular citizens. These authorities seem to have become a privileged class of their own. So corruption in Russia is pretty common, and people do like it. Russians like to break the rules. We tend to make arrangements, even there is a slight need for this. And this is considered like a plan B. If something goes wrong, you always have this plan B. And I remember thinking the same way when I lived in Russia. My oldest child reached the age when she needed to go to the kindergarten, but there was no available spots, and I had that plan B in my head. If officially I got a no, I would always resort to plan B, which meant going to a person who is in charge of that particular kindergarten and have a chat with them. Expensive chat. And that was it. Pretty simple. People prefer to give bribes to avoid fines to traffic offenses, for quicker processing of paperwork or permit and government services, for securing contracts or some sort of negotiation, and even for getting better grades or admission to schools. You know, if you have money, you can get literally everything you want in Russia. I don't feel like it's the same here in Europe. People are okay with the waiting or even getting rejected. It's fine. They are just trying to find other ways to fix their problems or to make any businesses other ways, but legal ways. But I feel like if Russian needs something, they will get it. For sure. It's like vicious circle. People officially don't like the level of corruption in Russia, but if there is something personal pops up, it's totally fine to go and make any arrangement and give a bribe. For people, it feels like a drop in the ocean, not a big deal if they give some money and to get a signature or whatever. But from those drops, we get the ocean. We have been feeding our government with this black money, but eventually we just suffer because it becomes addictive for authorities to get this extra cash just for a signature or for some sort of papers done, and authorities need more, and this process repeats over and over again. I believe it would take years to change the system and that mentality Russians have, and I think there would be two criteria for that. First, obviously, it's completely new government with the new rules, with the harsh punishment for those who take those bribes from people, but also for those who give those bribes to authorities. And that would definitely cut all this black cash flow in the system, and the harsh punishment would definitely cut this vicious circle with given extra cash to get some personal things done. And the second criteria is to build the trust, the solid foundation of trust between government and citizens. Basically, government in Russia, they don't care about what is going on with the people, about their well-being. The only thing the government is concerned is about holding that power and do not let it go. That's why there are more and more laws have been created in Russian system for the last few years, not to improve people's lives, but to limit people's rights. It's possible that Russian authorities will follow the example of their neighbors and prohibit passport issuance at Russian consulates abroad. So if you need to update your passport, you would have to go to Russia. That's insane! People, especially men, they can be just in trouble and they can be trapped inside their country, be sent to fight with the people they don't want to kill. And I feel like people who live abroad, they will have less and less rights to do any changes with their documents because of all these Russians government restrictions Renew created, we will be just stuck in one place without the opportunity to update our documents of our children. I don't know, it's insane. And again, it shows that our government doesn't care about people. They just need to have more people inside the country so they can have more human bodies to send and fight. But what if someone just left the country 5 years ago and they just don't want to come back, but they will have those limits and they still do not have other passports, they have only one Russian passport? It gets so complicated, and we just can't rely on our government. We just do not feel that Russian government cares about Russians. So in order to build that trust between people and government, people need to see that government really cares, that there is something is created for improvement. People need to see where all the money goes. Nowadays, Russian government is so proud of this war, and I recently saw a few pictures of all these military machines that had been destroyed by Russian soldiers with the USA flags or Ukrainian flags. So the government just shows off in front of local citizens. They try to demonstrate their power, but is it a good way to show that you care about people? I don't think so. In my opinion, it would be better to create new parks, or to work on a healthcare system, or to build new kindergartens, new schools, just to sidewalks, normal roads, you know, not like some roads in Russian small cities and towns. It seems to me the whole system goes to the hell, to completely opposite direction of the good, and they try to promote some bad things and try to wrap it up like it's really good and represent like it's for the better. They're doing it for the better. I think Russian government just scared to lose those power they have now, and the only way to try to hold the power is to show that you have the power by representing these military machines, by showing all these numbers of regions being invaded and the territory being taken over. And what the future is waiting for people who are cheering all these achievements? I don't understand that. If people see more positive changes in public services, in transport system, in schools and the health system, there slowly will be more trust between government and citizens. Before it happens, there will not be any trust. There will be only fear, and the only power the government has now, it's a fear. But it's supposed to be something good, that they're doing something good for people, for those who live in country, creating laws that improve people's life, improve people's wealth, not making them even poorer and desperate. You've been probably traveled to Moscow and St. Petersburg, because it's like two main cities in Russia, and you wouldn't say that there is no public services, parks and whatsoever. But if you go somewhere far, even farther in Siberia, you would be impressed how people live. Because all the money goes to Moscow, and Moscow gives only a little tiny part of all that wealth to those small cities. So the citizens of those small cities, they do not see where all their money goes. They just see literally ruins and old parks, like no benches, no sidewalks, nothing, and it's pretty sad. I really don't understand one thing about Europe. Currently I live in Bonn. It's a lovely city. It's relatively small, but it's so vivid and green, and there are so many interesting things around. I love this city so far. But when I visited the nearest city, Cologne, it's a bigger city than Bonn, I got completely speechless. There were immigrants. There were immigrants everywhere, and to be honest, I got scared by them, just by their look. The way they looked at people, it was a little bit uncomfortable, you know? Some of them were holding flags of their home countries. They were screaming something in their mother tongue, so we couldn't even understand it, no even clue. They didn't look friendly. They tried to stick with the groups with the same people, like from their home country, I assume. I was frightened by them. And they were Germans, and they just were walking by those suspicious groups of people, of immigrants, and they didn't really pay attention on them. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm an immigrant myself, but this behavior shows so much disrespect to a place that actually accepted you as an immigrant and gave all this opportunity to live, to thrive, to have a nice job, to be surrounded by nice people, and to have all these great opportunities for yourself, for children. Those people, they show so much disrespect to Germans, first of all, and I felt so sorry for them. And I don't understand why they do not react to all this disrespectful behavior towards them. One immigrant just peed on historical building during the day, and I was walking by with my two small kids. What the heck? At that moment, I was just speechless. I couldn't understand that person who did it. It was, I don't know, I can't find any words. And how should I explain those actions to my kids? They are small, and these immigrants, he just absolutely showing this huge disrespect to the country, and Germans walking by and they don't care. The more society ignores all these acts, the worse it gets. I assume some Germans don't show their discontent due to historical background. The whole nation carried the burden of the Second World War for a long time in the past, and I assume they don't want to be labeled the certain way again. But here I feel that it's a fine line. I'm sorry if this topic touches you personally, but I really do not understand why it is going on and why local Germans, they are fine with all this disrespect that some immigrants show to their country. Come on, guys, you are paying for those immigrants who are staying here. But it doesn't seem that all immigrants appreciate all these opportunities Germany gives them. Of course, there are some immigrants who try to integrate to culture, they learn German, they find jobs, they make contribution to the country, to the economic system, to the public system, wherever. But some of them, they just destroy the cultural heritage, and I just can't bear it. I'm not German, but I feel so sorry for Germans, especially when I see those acts of disrespect in the main streets. I'm just speechless in these cases. And maybe this is just because I was bringing up in Russia and this is the way I look at things. But I feel like this will not lead to anything good in the future. And some newcomers, they just get the status of unemployed and literally sit on the shoulders of those who work and pay high taxes. Those local Germans who walking by, that immigrants who disrespect their country, they actually pay for those immigrants. They buy them food and they provide the place where they can stay. How it can work? I don't understand. And I did some research for this part of the video to look at numbers of unemployment people in Germany. And particularly, I was curious to look at the ratio of unemployed local Germans and unemployed immigrants. And what I found speaks louder than I can speak. The annual average unemployment of Germans increased by 3% in 2023. On the other hand, unemployment among foreigners rose by 18%. According to my life experience, I can say that people easily get spoiled by the good attitude, by some perks they can have from anywhere, in this case from German's government. And the more they get, the more they want. And I'm not sure where it's going to lead to. Back to Russians' mentality, I think many of them, they just play victims. They don't take responsibility of what is going on in their country. What happens if Russians don't win this battle? They will tell it's Putin's fault. That's it, it's pretty simple. But the fact that we Russian actually gave him all this power and everything what he can do, it's basically our fault. We let this happen, people do not want to take it into consideration. People are fine to not take those responsibilities because it's heavy weight on shoulders to take those responsibilities, you know, and it's easier to just blame one person for all the bad things what happens in the world rather than take part of responsibility on your own shoulders. Some would tell, oh, why would I go on elections? Everything is decided already. Others would say, I can't go to protest, I can't change anything. Or my favorite one, Моя хата с краю. English version, I'm on outskirts. And in fact, some people even do not take responsibilities for their own lives. Back in 2019, my husband and I, we had intention to move to Canada, to immigrate to Canada, and we needed to pass one exam. And things didn't work well. We couldn't pass the exam for the first attempt, from the second, from the third. And I remember how my husband's mom, she always said, okay, you didn't pass the exam, so relax. It doesn't mean to happen. You shouldn't go somewhere, and just relax and stop trying. God knows better. Many Russians, they have this mentality. If something went wrong, that means it's for the best. It's for the better. You shouldn't try more. Just relax. God knows better. But what if it's just a checkup? To check up your ability, your willpower, to check whether you can keep going or not. It seems to me that for some Russians it's easier to just not to take responsibility for their life and give up if something didn't work as they wanted. Every person on the earth is responsible for what is going on the earth. It's a drop in the ocean, yes, but the ocean consists of the small drops. I'm Russian myself and I love being Russian, yet I find some things in my mentality a little bit controversial so far. Thank you for watching this video. Be safe and sound. See ya.